Hi everyone, Paige here from Newbie, and I'm here to do this quick little video because I would like to announce something for the RC. So on top of that, I thought might as well do a quick mini year in review video. So this video is quickly cobbled together, just quickly writing notes and preparing a few things to share, a quick and dirty production, and I'll be sharing this on YouTube as well as in podcast format. So what I'm trying to talk about today is that the Kings of War RC is announcing a feedback form to gather feedback from all its players. And Matt Carmack, one of the RC members, have requested content creators like us to push this message out so that they can gather as many feedback as possible. So at this moment, I would also like to thank the RC for their wonderful work for the game, especially this year. And a quick shout out to Matt Carmack, who I know has poured in lots and lots and lots of hours into Kings of War, and he's also leading this feedback gathering process. So a tip of a hat to you, Matt Carmack, and of course all the RCs as well. We do appreciate all the work that you have been doing. So what's this feedback form about? Well, they would like to gather feedback from the players, right? And let me just quickly share the feedback. Okay, the feedback is in 3 parts. So I'm sharing it on screen right now. If you're listening in on podcast, you can find the link in the description. Okay, it is a Google form the survey, so it's pretty simple. And it's split into 3 parts. So one is the general feedback, and on the description, there's a link to armies, part 1 and part 2. So you just need to key in your email, how often you play Kings of War, where do you play Kings of War, what armies do you play, and 3 feedback on rules. Just 3, 1, 2, 3. What's the thing you'd like to change? Number 1, number 2, and number 3. And if you click on the armies part 1, part 2, it is all the armies individually. So it will go through. And army number 1, as we know, is usually Abyssal Dwarfs. And I think it's the same question for each army, so I'm just going to read it out. Do you currently own or play this army? In terms of performance, where do you feel this army sits? 1/3, middle third, or bottom third? Viability, varied play styles and builds. What's the 1, 2, 3 things and you like to change as well? So let me just click next. And these are optional replies, so you don't have to reply for every single army. All right, so you can choose which armies you'd like to reply to. So the first half is armies 1 through 14, and the second half will be 15 through 28. There are 28 armies in Kings of War so far, and that is huge. All right. So let me just stop share, look at my notes for a while. Yeah, so I'd like to thank the RC for taking this initiative to gather feedback, because it is a huge undertaking. If we look at Kings of War Fanatics, there are 13.2 thousand people on there. So if you take that as an indication of the player base, 13,000 worth of players, and we are reaching far and wide. As of now, you can see Matt Carmack posting this survey link in all the various Kings of War Facebook groups, and content creators like us are pushing this feedback form out. So imagine if only 10% of the players give feedback. That is 1,300 responses that they have to sift through and organize and figure out what do players think of the game. And I think this is a great initiative. You know, one of the things being praised about Mantic Games is that they listen to its players. And part of that success is because the rules community are made out of the regular players of the game. So the rules community are very in touch with the players themselves. And even then, right now, you know, sometimes you can be in your own echo chamber. You hang out with the same few people. You only listen to a few people. So this is their way of reaching out to as many people as possible through all these various ways to promote this form. And yeah, the RC wants to listen from all the players as well. Okay. And yeah, and the one thing that's greatest about Mantic Games, you know, their quality of models are improving, but the key thing is their game systems are great to play. And these game systems are maintained by the RC or improved upon by the RC as well. Rules Committee, that is, if you are wondering what RC stands for. And so, yes, once again, tip of the hat to the RC. A very big thank you to all that's continuously making the game better. And it's always a process, right? It's always getting better and better. So yeah, with that, I'll conclude this RC feedback form part of the video. The next part, I'll just talk about my year in review. All right. So when I started this year, I wanted to play a completely different army from what I've usually been playing. I've been playing Order of the Green Lady since almost the beginning of 3rd edition. So it has been 3 years on now, and I'm getting pretty sick of it. Right. And yeah, it's a very strong Alpha Strike army. There's no denying that. And I think it has surged in popularity in the US scene right now. Okay, one of the key things that makes it popular is yeah, a lot of speed. Order of the Forsaken being a premier flying horde unit. And the thing about Order of the Forsaken, you can compare with Drakon Riders, Hell Strikers, or even Whites. What else? I think there's one more, but I just can't remember right now. But the thing that Order of the Forsaken has going for them the most is that they are the cheapest. Right? You can argue the different special rules, which one is better. But one thing you can't argue is that the Forsaken Hordes are the cheapest, which means you can take quite a lot of units of them. You can put items on them to keep them out, and they're still relatively inexpensive compared to the other flying hordes. And that combined with their access to Pegasus and Unicorn, which just got a slight nerf this clash, makes it an all-round very fast army with lots of fast support as well. But yeah, I've been playing it for 3 years, and it's getting a little bit boring playing it. I feel playing it for 3 years, I can feel what are its weaknesses. It doesn't want to charge into trash, because you kill the trash and then your expensive hordes gets wiped out. And if the trash is in front of you, you have to charge it unless you can get around it. If the opponent have enough trash, they can form a big wall. Yep, and part of the weaknesses is like goblins. So after I explored a few armies, I decided to settle on goblins, right? So because it is one thing that my Order of the Green Lady struggle against, and as well as goblins is a completely different play style from Order of the Green Lady. So that's when I took the plunge into goblins. And yeah, throughout, I think since March, I settled on goblins. And so throughout this entire year, I've been painting goblins. And yeah, there's a counter charge slow grow, right? So slow grow league. So I've been taking part in it every single month, and I have completed my Goblin Army. Right, so let me share that. I actually completed it in early December. So this is an army-wide shot. Okay, and there's 2 more hordes of goblins that's not in this picture, because my current list my current list doesn't run all of these, but my current list only runs 4 hordes, and I'm running out of locker space at my local game store, so I could only fit 4 hordes in my locker in the game store. So the other 2 hordes are sitting at home, while the rest of this army that you see here is sitting in the local game store. Okay, so yeah, let me see what I would like to talk about this. All right, I'll probably do a video showing another video showing all the different units further down the line of my Goblin Army. Okay, so there are certain aspects of the army that I'd like to keep a surprise until an event that I'll be heading up to in early January. Okay, so with that, let me just stop sharing. I've completed 7 Kings of War armies now. All right, if you'd like to look at my first 6, I made a video. You can see the link in the top right corner of the video. Or if you're listening on podcast, I'll share the link. Okay, so they are Redkin, Basilean, Green Lady, or the Forces of the Abyss, Kingdoms of Men, Salamanders, and now Goblins. Okay, 4 of them are Mantic armies, which means a majority or all Mantic models. That will be Basilean, Green Lady, Forces of the Abyss, and Goblins. So 4 armies are Mantic, the other 3 are non-Mantic. So at this point, future army projects, I would like to continue using Mantic models, fielding Mantic armies in future. Part of it is myself wanting to support Mantic as a company. It's still a relatively small company compared to some of the game companies out there, right? Of course, the big giant there is Games Workshop, but even then, Atomic Mass Games, which is actually an offshoot of Fantasy Flight Games, they are really a big contender in the scene right now. I think they are the second largest, with Star Wars Legion. They have a new skirmish game, Star Wars Shatterpoint, Marvel Crisis Protocol, and Marvel MCP, right? Marvel Crisis Protocol has really been really big, I think, around the world because of the Marvel superheroes brand. Yeah, I think X-Wing is still around as well, although locally we don't have a scene. So yeah, that's the second giant in the scene. You can consider that a giant as well with such strong IPs. Yeah, and a few other board game / miniature games companies. They can be really successful through Kickstarters of very huge IPs as well. And even those Kickstarters alone, the amount of money they raise could really rival or surpass Mantic in terms of, I guess, revenue. So yeah, Mantic is still a relatively small company, and I hope to support Mantic as much as I can. Right now, though, completing my Goblin Army, I have no inspiration to start another Mantic army. Maybe nature. I did buy a few things to make a nature army, because I could also branch off from the models I have from of the Green Lady and Salamanders. I do have some Mantic models in my Salamanders army. Yeah, but in future, I'm looking to refresh my Abyssal Forces of the Abyss army, right? I'm doing up the display board right now. While I had the idea for the display board years ago, but I just put it aside because I had no intention to play the Abyss army. But now I'm waiting for the faction refresh. It will be the second faction to be refreshed after Trident Realms. So with that, I would like to do up the display board first, right? And I'd like to update my Basilean armies also, but I really wish to wait for the Basilean model line to be updated before I do that, because I'm not that inspired with the models right now. Okay, I do have most of them in my army: Elohai, Paladin Knights, Paladin Footmen, men at arms. Yeah, they're all Mantic models, and one Sisterhood Scouts unit, but they are mainly taking from the Kings of War Vanguard Kickstarter that I backed long ago, and I swapped for more. I swapped my other factions for more Basilean models, right? So I have more sisters that's just enough to make one regiment, right? So for the channel, I have 1 or 2 more Goblin battle reports coming out. I've been doing battle reports for a few years now, and sometimes it can be quite repetitive because, like, maybe for the audience it's not, especially if you just joined my channel a short while ago. But sometimes the learning points that are in the videos are repeated a lot of times. It's important, but I like to do battle reports that have interesting things to learn from. So there's one more Goblin battle report that I think there's a lot to learn from. So that's one that I'll definitely be doing. All right. And with that, in early January, I'll be participating in Clash of Kings Asia 2024. All right. It'll be happening in Malaysia. So I think there's 20 over players, and because of the venue booking, we are doing 4 games in a day. So that will be quite a battle of endurance as well. Right. So my local Singapore players, they are doing 4 games one day on New Year's Eve, which I will not be able to participate in. So I will not be getting that practice, right? Throughout especially the last few months, I've been training to play goblins on the clock, because that is one of the challenges of playing goblins, because I think I have 19 drops. So compared to Order of the Green Lady, at 2,000 points, I think I usually have about 11 drops or 12. So 19 drops is a lot more, right? So firstly, I was training myself to play on the clock within 60 minutes. And yeah, and also training to change my mindset from an Alpha Strike player to like a shooty and trash, counter punch army, or rather a counter shoot army. You wait for the things to come close and then you shoot them with your trombones, right? And your other 12-inch shooting, such as wing it. Yep. So I'm pretty bummed that I couldn't have played the 4-game tournament to, sort of get some practice in, especially to be able to feel having 4 games in a day. Well, my my capability to play on weeknights and weekends has severely diminished to near zero ever since I have my second kid. So my second kid is 1.5 years old right now. So probably a few more years before I can start to have more time on the weekend and weeknights to play. Right now, it's all hands on deck when it comes to caring for the kids. Yeah, with that, I did get into a new game, and it's Simon's A Song of Ice and Fire tabletop miniatures game. It is also sort of like a ranks and flanks, right? A Song of Ice and Fire, ASOIAF is the acronym, but that acronym is very hard to pronounce. So if you take away the and the off and the n, I think there's an English term for this kind of words. But if you take that away, it's just SIF or SIF. Some people might pronounce it that way. Yep. So if you know what's the term for all these connecting words, off, and the, yeah, do put it in the comments. Yeah. So Singapore being a British colony, we speak English as our main language, but a lot of families, especially my generation, my parents speak Chinese at home. So, I learned English. I learned my English through watching lots of TV, right? Sesame Street and lots of cartoons, Power Rangers, Spider-Man growing up. Yeah, so I learned my English through watching TV shows. I don't know how to explain all the English language rules, but I just know whether it sounds right or not based on all the TV that I've been watching when I was young. Yep, so back to A Song of Ice and Fire, Sif, right? It started with local game store. They had a festival, I think late November, and they were selling a Baratheon starter set for cheap. So I decided to pick it up, not knowing what to do with it at first. So when I bought it, I was thinking of using it for Kings of War. Then I still felt strongly that I just want to do Mantic armies. I already have human armies already in form of Basilean and Order of the Green Lady anyway. So after thinking about it for a while, do I want to use it for Basileia? A lot of human models that I can use in the Basilean lines. But in the end, I decided that, I just want to keep these human armies strictly Mantic. So I've decided to just dive into the game, try it out, right? So that's what it ended up to be. And I've painted it in my signature pink colors as well. I'm sharing it on screen right now. So these are 4 units done. And these are the characters. Renly, Loras Tyrell, Courtney Penrose, Marjorie Tyrell, and this is a variant Renly. Right, this High Garden Pikeman, Wardens, and that's it. That's all to share. And yeah, so yeah, I think I'm diving into that game. I played a few games of it. I like it Taskfar. And it feels different. It's not a fully a war game, ranks and flanks war game, but it feels like a hybrid between a ranks and flanks war game, combined with a card game or a board game, because there are card mechanics and there's a tactics board mechanics. So it's a separate board, it's like the politics of it, right? You have non-fighting characters that are battling over benefits. So the benefits on the board is like an extra move, an extra attack, drawing more cards, which you can use for certain effects, heal, and the last one is to force a panic check. So yeah, so there's some strategy there, right? Do I make an extra attack with the tactics board, and then the opponent can take the heal to heal back the wounds that are dealt through the extra attack. So there's some mind games going on over there. And most factions have about 7 activations with 4 or 5 combat units. 4 combat units and 3 non-combat units. They call it NCUs or support units, right? Or 5 combat units and 2. Yeah, so it's a different game. Another thing that I find very interesting about the game is it's very not alpha strikey. Like things don't die in one go, which is quite refreshing compared to some of the war games I've been playing. Like Kings of War, most of the time when you charge something, you expect to multi-charge it and just kill it at one shot. Right, it happens at least half the time, right? Of course, not all the time you do it, but you're always thinking about doing it. But in Song of Ice and Fire, nothing can be killed from fresh in one swing, right? Almost none. I think their rules have been tweaked to make sure that that doesn't happen, so that you can counterplay and then you on your turn you can heal them back and stuff like that. So usually things only start to die around turn 3. Yep, turn 2 is a bit early, but usually things start to die around turn 3 out of 6 turns as well. Yeah, yeah, that's quite refreshing because like before Kings of War, I played War Machine, and that's also a very one hit. You know, when I charge my Warjack into your Warjack, I'm gonna kill it in one turn, because if not, you can repair and swing back and decimate me in one turn as well. So yeah, I'm after playing so much of that, this more grindy game is quite refreshing because there's only 4 or 5 units on the table, right? If you pop one a turn, then the game dwindles a little bit too fast. So there's a bit of a struggle back and forth. Healing card mechanics, you know, surprises to heal back or diminish your or weaken your attack, stuff like that. Yeah, interesting thing is that also CMON's headquarters is actually in Singapore. So I feel a more closer connection to the company making the game. And yeah, I'm talking to some of the people who are in working for CMON, so I can directly talk about a game with them. And yeah, in fact, one of the CMON staff was ex Kings of War player as well. So that's know him quite closely. Yeah, regarding this game, I don't know if I'll do content for it in future video content. That remains to be seen because I'm still quite new to the game. I have 4 full games so far and 1 demo, right? So yeah, I might do it on this channel, or I might start a new channel, YouTube channel. Most likely that is what I might do if I would like to make content for it. Yeah, it's all because of the YouTube algorithm. If I do it on the Newbie Dice channel, right? If half my videos are Kings of War, half my videos are Song of Ice and Fire, right? But most likely my audience is one or the other, right? So if I make a Kings of War video, only half my audience will watch it. And if I make a Song of Ice and Fire video, only half my audience will watch it. And then it will mess up with the YouTube algorithm. So the YouTube will think that, oh, your things are only watched by half your audience. So it's either your video is not very good or it's not in demand. And then it will it will sort of deprioritize me. So if I were to ever make content for it, it will be for probably on the new channel. But you know, gaining subscribers in this niche hobby, whether it's Kings of War or SIF, is really quite a slog. So if I split into 2 channels, would that make it even more of a slog? That's another thing to be seen. Well, will I stop playing Kings of War as of now? Of course, not yet. I've been playing Mantic games for so long, right? I do agree that the games are great. In fact, I think Dead Zone is the best game. I think a lot of players have echoed this, but you know, like even when Dead Zone was their best game, right? A lot of people talk about it, but still not a lot of people play it. In fact, when Firefight came about, like a lot of people who kept talking about Dead Zone being a good game, but they never played it, they jumped into Firefight because maybe they're looking for more of a war game, right? That's the size of the game that they're looking for, not a skirmish game like Dead Zone. So in fact, I've played Dead Zone, I've played Kings of War, I've played Firefight, I've played Armada. Yeah, and the thing is, not a lot of players play all these games, right? In fact, the community overlaps. The Kings of War players play Armada, which is not a lot, right? Some of them play Firefight or Dead Zone, which is not a lot. And yeah, a lot of the Dead Zone and Firefight players, they are non-Mantic. They are playing other game systems right now, like Marvel Crisis Protocol, Star Wars Legion. It's a bigger IP, right? Bigger sci-fi IP. Or even 40K. Or what else? Q Team even, right? That's the 40K skirmish. So yeah, a lot of Firefight hasn't drawn a lot of 40K players, unfortunately. That's the case for our local scene. I don't know if that's the case internationally as well. So it's really a challenge fighting against this juggernaut. So as much acolyte that Firefight has attained, it didn't. From locally, I feel that it didn't gain much player base, especially from the big juggernaut of 40K. People are so entrenched in the lore, and of course, that game is much more popular, right? Every game store would have Games Workshop, and they would have 40K, right? In Singapore, only one store is stocking Mantic, and so that is the size of the community, right? In a nutshell, for you, and I believe it's quite the same in other parts of the world as well. So yeah, I do hope that Mantic could focus on the core games, and what I consider core games right now would be Kings of War, Armada, Dead Zone, and Firefight. Yeah, to keep pushing these games to gain player base through these games, right? Yeah, that being said, when I play Song of Ice and Fire, Simon Song, the player base is totally different. So which is also quite refreshing that, I get to play with a different community of players rather than the Mantic community that I've been playing with for years now. We might have an odd person joining in from outside the Mantic community here and there. Yeah, whether it's Armada, Dead Zone, Firefight. But main majority is been the Mantic players, right? I do think their games are great, but really the getting more players is the struggle. And I hope Mantic has a plan for that, in fact, right? So with that, I will end off this video. I thank you for listening to me ramble so far with all my year in review thoughts. So if you have anything to comment, do drop a comment. I'll reply to almost all the comments. So yeah, what do you think of Song of Ice and Fire? Have you tried it? What do you think of Mantic games this year? Yeah, the other game systems other than Kings of War and all that jazz. All right. So with that, I think I'll stop recording. So thank you, and I'll see you next year.